Hello, everyone. My name is Indira Allen Stevens, and today we are here with Sharifa Ali. Sharifa Ali is an international creative leader committed to advancing radical change through the power of art and activism. She works across disciplines, directing and producing films, virtual reality experiences, and plays, and moves her audiences to engage with timely issues touching upon Black, Afropolitan, and African American identities. Originally from Kenya and raised in South Africa, Sharifa has been a New York resident since 2013, where she works primarily as a director, community organizer, professor, and administrator at the Public Theater and the New Group, among others. She is currently on faculty at Princeton University. Some of her plays include Off Broadway. I'm going to butcher this. Ms. Julie.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, okay, I got it right. Regional Schoolgirls, or the African Mean Girls play, The Copper Children, Malimas. I said that right too? I'm pat on the back. Malima's Tale, Film VR, Ashland and Atumo, Sink, Sank, Sunk, You Go Girl, O-Dog, honors New Frontier Fellow. Wait, this is not plays anymore. This is
some honors or accolades, yeah.
Okay, some of her honors include New Frontier Fellows, Sundance Institute Lab, and the Royal National Theater. And then PBS, Sparks Grant. There we go. Okay, and then education includes a Bachelor with Honors, Theater and Performance, and University of Cape Town in South Africa. And now this is just a rough summary of what Sharifa does, but it's by no means like all of what Sharifa does. Sharifa is just so amazing. And so I'm going to make sure I link some of her bio down in the description. But if you want to see her full bio, you're going to need to click on the link that's also going to be in the bio to head over to her website, which is absolutely gorgeous, by the way. I love how you did that. So yeah, welcome, Sharifa.
Thank you, Indira. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the incredible generosity of spirit. Those who were not tuned in before we started recording, Indira was so kind enough to lead a grounding breathwork exercise with me, and I just feel lifted and in tune, and so eager to have this conversation.
Wow, you're so sweet. Thank you so much, Sharifa. You're just so amazing. I went to go see Sharifa at the Hermitage in her artist retreat, and she was telling the audience about a play that she wanted to write and that she was going to be creating. And I was blown away because I have never seen a play presented in this type of manner. And you think that when you're going to a performance that you might be missing out because you're not seeing the full experience. But the way Sharifa pulled the story together, you were engaged in every process and every step, and you wanted to see the final product, and you also wanted to really just invest in the work that you're doing, Sharifa, because you are just so amazing. So I'm just honored to be able to sit with you and ask you all of these questions today.
Oh, well, thank you. I think that the core element of performance is the relationship with the audience. And I felt that this audience, in this work in progress sharing, this audience was really willing to go on that journey, and you kicked it off. So thank you.
Okay.
And can I ask a question? Is orange the color of the sacrum?
Yes, orange is the color of the sacral chakra.
Okay. I need to tap into that more because I just found out some of my chart, and that my sacrum is where all my answers and all my intuition comes from. So I would love to talk to you about that at another point.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I could definitely tell you about that. I just did a creativity conference, and they had a whole portion, I feel, that was dedicated to just freeing that whole space up. So we can definitely talk about that. But you're already so massively creative. So you call yourself a theater maker, and I've never heard this term before in my life, but I like when you said it, like I could feel it resounding in my spirit. And so
Mhm.
I really appreciate the confidence that you have in the work that you do, and the fact that you call yourself a theater maker. I just think that's so beautiful. So what does that mean to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this was a term that was actually given to me by the university where I studied in South Africa. And that term in South Africa is meant to encapsulate anything and everything that goes on in making sure that you put together a new piece of art, a theatrical work. You know, we don't have the same infrastructure that y'all have here in the US, where there's Broadway, there's off Broadway, off Broadway. It works very differently. Where in America, you know, someone can specialize as a director, and that's all that they do. They strictly work as a director. As a theater maker, I feel that term opens up the creative process to allow directing to take place, to allow design to take place, to allow writing and building of a new creative work to take place, to allow promotions and producing to take place. So basically, anything that is involved in building a creative work from the ground up is where I most identify. And sometimes there's an emphasis on directing, but it is not exclusive to directing. And in many ways, I was insecure about that when I first came to the US, because you know, a person on my right was a Yale educated director, and person on my left was a professional producer. And I felt like, oh, can I really survive in this field where everyone is so specialized? And I realized, oh, it's actually my background in having a broad set of skills that makes me unique. And I stopped seeing myself as a disadvantage and started seeing it as an advantage. And so theater maker is now the term that I use to describe myself, in addition to being a filmmaker as well.
Mm. I'm so glad that you shared how you've grown into that term theater maker. And I like how you describe it as it not being singular to one particular thing, but allowing you to really expand. I feel like a lot of us take on these titles and roles that keep us confined in one space when we have so many different interests. And so if we could find a term that is big enough to encapsulate all that we could potentially do, we would be so much more happier. And so I love that you got to share that with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think if it, you know, my hope is that if anyone is seeking the permission or the green light to identify as a theater maker, if you know that you are capable of doing more than one thing in the creative process, take it on. Let's break and bend these boundaries.
And when I went to your performance, I keep referencing it. It was so amazing, everyone. But when I went to your performance, you talked about creating spaces for creativity. And I really want you to touch on that because I would love to know how you create these spaces.
Thank you. For me, creating the perfect conditions for creativity to soar or thrive is not unlike hosting a party or hosting a gathering. And so I grew up, my parents were immigrants from East Africa and they settled in South Africa. And I grew up around a lot of parties, house parties, events, gatherings where food and joy were the core ingredients in the mix, and a lot of dancing. And in those moments, I realized that creating a space is so much about creating an atmosphere, creating a mood, and creating a space where everyone feels welcome to show up in the fullness of who they are. So I've taken those experiences from my childhood and applied them to creating and setting the space for a creative process or a creative exploration. The first thing is, to make sure that a room is clean, that a room is bright, that the room reflects the ethos of the work that you're trying to create. Another way that I consider myself a space maker or waymaker is by inviting us to create a series of agreements in a creative process. I call them community agreements about how do we want to conduct ourselves, how do we want to hold space together. And those community agreements will often be, on a big sheet of paper in the creative space, and they'll exist almost like as our governing principles of how we want to create a sort of like maybe a love ethic in the room. I'm someone who is not afraid to use the L word, love, in my work. I think sometimes when we get used to sort of like maybe a sense of professionalism where you feel that you can't pour love into the way that you show up on a daily basis. And for me, I reject that and say, no, love is actually a core, again, ingredient towards a creative process. And so setting a space, creating the agreements for that space, and then creating a creative process that allows for different phases of development are how I create the conditions for creativity. By telling folks like, or offering, okay, if we have 4 weeks to bake something, to make a project, let's spend the first week exploring and bringing all the big ideas in. For me, the best idea is always the winner. It doesn't have to be my idea. It's the idea that we all sort of come up with collectively, and or other individuals come up with, and we get behind it. So phase one of a creative process is about creative exploration, discovery, playfulness, creating a jungle gym in the room, as it were. Phase two is about now taking some of those initial ideas and driving them a little further, exploring them, interrogating them, stretching them, going a little bit more rigorously with our inquiry. Phase three is the phase of like decision making, where we are like, okay, this is really what it's going to be. Let's allow it to congeal by repeating it, by going deeper into it, by letting the piece kind of set. And then phase four is about polishing and sculpting, which is about fine-tuning the rhythm, the way that the piece looks as a whole, pulling in other elements like maybe technical elements like lighting or design. And so in this in this example, I've talked through how it could work in a 4-week process, but imagine doing that in a 4-hour process, or doing that something like that in a 10-week process, finding ways to just create a structure, infrastructure for us to live. Oftentimes I call my rehearsal room the Republic, because it's our own country, our own sovereign nation, where we get to decide how we show up and invent. We get to reinvent ourselves every day.
Wow. I'm just so honored. Honestly, there was just so much to unpack in just what you just said right there, right now. But I'm gonna try and stay focused. So, your process, like coming up with your process to create this space, it kind of sounds like you're doing a bit of design thinking with it. Does that play into how you have created a process for the spaces that you make?
Yeah, I would say, it's so interesting. Like I learned about design thinking maybe, like in my late 20s. I didn't know that this was something that I was using without knowing, where that theory had come from. And so definitely design thinking plays a part in how we're sort of like structuring, especially when building something from the ground up, and especially where research and development are concerned. Hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of leads us into my next question is, who has inspired what you do and how you approach creation?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think that, the first audience is always the family, right? And the first inspiration. For me, I remember growing up and and visiting my family in Kenya and watching, we call them the gogo, or the shoshos, the elders, tell stories by the fireside. And those, I would say that the village elders in Kitale, including my grandparents, were the ones who were my first sort of like teachers and influencers as far as storytelling. Just hearing like how they would speak with such animated tones or dramatize things. And I felt like even as a 3-year-old, I always felt more tuned in and plugged into like the elders. And then as I sort of started honing and shaping my craft, I would say that, like, in addition to my mom, who was really invested in my happiness and really excited for me to pursue something that I was not only gifted in, but something that I enjoyed, because there was a time in my life where I was at a crossroads between pursuing a career in journalism, a career in the law, or a career in theater. And, where maybe other parents would have been like, oh, go into law, because that's where the money is, or that's where the stability is, or go into journalism because that's where the truth maybe is. My mom was really good about pushing me towards theater. And so in taking up that mantle of theater, I've been greatly influenced by a lot of my teachers in South Africa. Mark Fleischman, Sarah Matchett, Jay Pather would be the most influential. And then here in the US, my mentor, Cynthia Nixon, Scott Elliott, and a couple other people have played a huge part in the journey.
That's so amazing, because your mom validated your dreams and push you forward. You were going to find and carve out a path that worked for you to have your dream life. And I just think that is just so amazing. That's really key, that you brought that up. So yeah, I'll just keep that in mind. Okay. What does Afrofuturism work mean to you? And well, I'll start there. Yeah, what does Afrofuturism work mean to you?
Yeah, currently how I define it is this kind of the study of imagining futures for the Black body beyond its current state of oppression. So it is about looking into speculative fiction, fashion, art, TV dramas, any and everything. It's an aesthetic study. It's an academic point of inquiry, and it's all about planting seeds towards seeing that future for the liberated Black body. And the reason why I'm so passionate about Afrofuturism and the power of seed planting is that when you think about our world and everything that we've seen and everything that exists, everything from a traffic light to the systems that govern our day to day, the everything that exists in this world, the good, the bad, or ugly, was once an idea before it was realized. Someone thought, wouldn't this be nice if we could blah 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 blah. So to take it back to Afrofuturism, this power of the idea, wouldn't it be nice, wouldn't it be essential or amazing to have a liberated Black body? Before it can be realized, it has to be a dream. Before it can be dreamed, it has to be an idea.
That's really profound. I like what you said there. And then what experience with an Afrofuturist stands out to you the most?
I mean, I think that I'm really excited about how the language around Afrofuturism is making its way into our collective consciousness, that it isn't something, that lives solely in the academy or in the intellectual spaces, that, with the rise of projects like Black Panther and Wakanda Forever, we're getting to see Afrofuturism on a sort of like popular platform. And I think that that's exciting because that means that millions of people are then doing the collective dreaming work. That it is not just then, you know, the artists or the academics who are doing that work, that everyone is kind of putting energy towards the idea of liberated futures for Black bodies.
I I love that you use Black Panther as a as an example, because I remember how I felt when I heard Black Panther was coming out. And I remember how I felt when I was going to go see it in movies and just getting dressed up for the experience because I wanted to kind of cosplay a bit. And it was fun to kind of cosplay for a Black experience.
Totally.
And it was just such a cool time. And I remember just sitting in the theater and Caesar's song came on. I probably say this. Caesar's song came on. I probably said that wrong too. And I just started crying, just like sitting in the theater and just experiencing this because I hadn't seen this before. So, yes, Afrofuturism is very important to seeing us beyond just where we are right now, because we get so many pieces about our past and stuff like that, or the present. We don't really see these hopeful films about the future that could really help change and shift our perspectives. So yes, Afrofuturism is very impactful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely. And, you know, oh, damn, I was going to say something, but it's gone. It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back. When it does, just let me know. Okay,
Okay.
and so who was your favorite person to collab with? I don't know if that's like rude to say, but like maybe the best one is, what was the most rewarding experience collaborating with someone?
Mm. Well, you know, I'm very fortunate that I've gotten to work with a wide cross section of people. You know, those who are consider themselves artists and those who I consider artists but may not identify as artists. And I think I think that the collaborations that I've enjoyed the most have been when I have been in spaces that have allowed me to redefine what we mean when we say expert and newcomer to something, and collaborations that have allowed me to feel like a newcomer, as scary and as challenging as they can be. Those collaborations have been the most exciting. So the collaborations in VR, this immersive emerging technology that is constantly changing. When I started working in VR in 2016, the technology was so new and so rapidly evolving that, one, we didn't always have language for the things that were happening. There was no technical terminology at the time. And two, the tech would often break down mid-experience because the tech was constantly being updated. And that was exciting to feel like on the edge of something completely new. And in filmmaking, the terror and delight of getting to sort of like helm a film production and what it means to sort of like put together a creative team, write a script, execute you know, a film under COVID conditions. That collaboration was like extremely intense and rewarding at the same time. And I remembered what I was going to say.
Yes, go ahead.
And it speaks to the notion of Afrofuturism, but more towards the idea of the origins of a lot of the culture that we experience here in the US and that we export to the world and that we sort of like create, can be traced to the games that young Black girls play. You know, the hand games.
Yeah.
Yep. And some of the TikTok dances as well. I have some friends who are working on a documentary. They're award-winning power team from RADA Studios, who are working on a piece that basically traces back everything in popular culture here and now to the hand games that were played by little girls hundreds of years ago, little Black girls. And so I love Afrofuturism because in as much as it projects us towards the future, it also helps us understand that we are the blueprint, that we are the sort of like foundation upon which culture is built.
I love the world that you're painting for me, and getting the opportunity to listen and to like glean your perspective on things. It like I can see it like it's so expansive, and I just love it so much. And so I can't wait till this film comes out with Rada Studios. And I'll keep an eye out for it because that is just very cool. And also, you spoke about your experience around the word expert, and I thought that was really interesting because this weekend I had the opportunity, and somebody I was talking with someone, and they were saying that they didn't actually like the term expert because they felt like it was a death knell. In so many instances, it stopped you from learning, because there's still so much to learn in all different fields. There's so many ways that you can expand. And so she's like, no, you don't want to be an expert. You want to constantly be a voracious student and learning in your particular field. So yeah, that was cool.
Absolutely.
And then what would you like to see more of in the art world?
I would like to see more risk taking. I would like to see more collaborations across disciplines. I would like to see the blurring, the bending, and the breaking of of rules or boundaries that can sometimes limit our full potential. And I would love to see a more equitable redistribution of resources. Yeah.
That's a great answer. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Simple.
Okay. Sorry, what were you saying?
Like you asked.
Yeah, no, that was good. Because I feel like that kind of reflects on some of the stuff that we're trying to do at Northern Agents, is trying to like bend the barriers around there and try and do different things. So yeah, no, that works. So when we were at the Hermitage, you spoke extensively about Vuyo Sitache. I'm hoping I'm saying that right.
Yes.
But could you tell us more about Vuyo, and more about your work? And wait, sorry, could you tell us more about it and how people view your creation? Could you tell us more about your work with Vuyo? Yeah, we'll go there.
Absolutely. Vuyo is an incredible singer and songwriter. He is Xhosa and he is from South Africa. And Vuyo and I have been friends from 2013. So this is our 10th anniversary of our friendship here. We met here in the US, in New York, when Vuyo was in grad school and I was kind of kicking rocks and discovering and playing throughout New York City. And we became fast friends because of just our shared culture. As someone who was raised in South Africa, and Vuyo, who's a South African, we had a lot in common. And we had been friends for maybe 8 years before we collaborated creatively. And I loved having the foundation of our friendship to come back to in these creative collaborations. And together we have worked on a couple of shows that have toured the country, mostly in Vuyo's world, in the performing arts series world, where Vuyo as a vocalist will perform and present works at various locations throughout the US. And so this project that we're doing is a new type of collaboration where we will be working on an autobiographical story based on Vuyo's life growing up in a small conservative town in South Africa. When Vuyo was very young, Vuyo was an incredible member of a choir. And in this choir, there were altos, sopranos, and tenors, and all the parts. And Vuyo, of course, has this incredible voice, because we know now that he, has become a celebrated vocalist. But at the time, the choir was getting involved in a competition. And in order to participate in that competition, only female soloists were being accepted. And so the whole community, the whole choir, the principal and the choir teacher all decided that they would disguise Vuyo as a girl and allow Vuyo to participate in the competition so that Vuyo could be the soprano soloist. And it was really interesting, because when you consider the timing of it being, in the early 2000s, late 90s, the queerness of it, given that Vuyo at the time was in a point of discovering his identity and was often teased for being flamboyant or for being soft or for being different. To have the same people who were teasing him get behind him and support this activity of wearing the dress, the uniform, was a beautiful way that art made space for compassion.
Wow.
Art made space for compassion. And so this story is all true. The choir ended up winning the competition and going on to the provincial, national levels. And it was all because of this kind of collective secret. And so we are working on doing a play or a musical. It's so early, we don't know what it will look like. But what we do know is that that story has to be told. And so together with Hermitage, Vuyo and I are building that play in the way that I was raised to make art from the ground up, with a series of incredibly talented actors. And so we'll be working through a devised process. So we have the story that Vuyo has fleshed out, and then and as it existed, and then we have what the actors will bring to it as well, what I will bring to it as well, and we will build, and hopefully we'll have a finished product at the start of the fall.
How amazing. Like, I love that Vuyo got to experience the bad side and then also the good side at the same time, because so many times you don't often get to experience people actually pushing you forward. So that is such a cool story, and I cannot wait to see this play and when it comes out, because this, yeah, it's just gonna be amazing. But okay, I was gonna ask you something. No, come back to me. It walked away. It walked away.
It happens because we're just flowing.
It is. And it was such a good question too. Oh my gosh. All right.
We'll come back.
Also, I love that quote. I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna write it down right now. Art made space for compassion. So I wrote that down as coined, Sharifa. That's your quote. And then also I had another question. So you're working with a close friend, and so that's usually frowned upon in like the working world. So how do you navigate that? And are there any like rough points that you walk into, and how would you approach that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think that any kind of working relationship needs to sort of like, if you establish those rules of engagement or how we're going to work together, and also if you work with a love ethic where you hold, that you can hold people to that, some of those values of respect and accountability, it makes, I have to say, I'm notorious for working with my friends. Sometimes I say this is the best way to get to spend time with friends is to do something creative together. And many people have become friends as a result of creative processes, and there've been breakdowns, and discord as a result of that. But I think having a sense of like, we're just being creative, we're just artists, we're making work. There is a lot going on in our world, and if we can hold space and compassion for each other and hold each other's complexities, I think it's actually important to go through tumult and difficulty with creative and maybe even friendship relationships, because it actually makes the relationship more strong.
All great points. And I feel like being creative in general is not always like a perfect process. Like fires do come up and they pop up, and you've got to deal with those fires. So I think those are great points that you brought along, and I will definitely consider more of that in the future, because that just sounds really interesting.
I mean, as long as we have to always check for ourselves, like knowing that there's a difference between discomfort and pain. Discomfort is okay. Discomfort can be a portal to growth. Discomfort can be, a means of sort of like lifting you to the next level. Pain is something that we shouldn't be trying to cause or inflict. And creative processes shouldn't evoke a sense of pain. And so, and when that happens, it's best to figure out what harm reduction and relationship repair can look like. Because I have had breakdowns, and I'm happy to say that a lot of those I have come back to and repaired, Yeah, it's important. Nobody really talks about that.
Yeah, no, they really don't talk about that. So I just want to say, when is the book coming out?
Hey,
this book is going to be amazing.
Art Made Way for Compassion, the Sharifa Ali story.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, like that would be good. Oh, wow.
Are you going to give me a book deal?
No, am I going to give you a book deal? Listen, we're not book publishers yet, but we'll definitely promote you.
There you go. You'll give me a
I feel like the title is not there yet, but that's one of the quotes that you could put in there. And I think that you could do like quoted sections, so you could make the quotes bigger, and then yes. But we'll talk more about that later. But I also loved how you said, I found it, that you were pulling everyone into the creative process, and so you were taking into consideration what the artist brought to the table, as well as what Vuyo brought to the table, what you brought to the table. And so that is like co-creation at its best, like just allowing room for everything to breathe and to be in that space.
Of course. And of course.
What is it? Okay. It's like unconditional love almost, because you're not asking anybody to change, but instead you're asking them to come into the space and be as they are, and to share what they are in this safe space. So what you're doing is just so, so beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Indira. You're so kind. And, it means a lot to be supported, particularly to have support from Black femme folk, because this is my beloved community. And this is who has held me up, who will pick up the pieces, who can see through, the nonsense. And so it means a lot to share this space and time with you. It really does.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, Sharifa, I'm here for you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a few more questions. So can you tell us about your work in VR?
Yes. So I haphazardly entered a competition and won that competition. I pitched a project that had to do with my Kenyan roots, basically centering this ancient tree. And the myth that surrounds this tree is that if you walk around the tree 7 times, you can change your gender. And why that was exciting to me was because the present day laws around gender fluidity and LGBTQ rights in Kenya is pretty problematic. There are about 17 laws that make it illegal to be queer in any way, shape, or form. And these laws are informed a great deal by colonial influence in Kenya. And this myth predates those laws. This myth that was open to the idea that people are fluid in the way that they want to move through the world, this predates the arrival of the settler colonialism with the Bible and the gun. And so in the VR experience, I invite my audiences to be ancestors, to help an individual transition by going around the tree 7 times, where we use dance as the primary means of storytelling and interactivity, so that 7 ancestors at a time get to experience a forest and this journey.
Wow. How beautiful is that? Oh my gosh. That is okay. That is just so beautiful. Yeah.
So I
So
started.
are they dancing around the tree?
Yeah, the individual is dancing around the tree, and you as the ancestor have to help remove obstacles. Sometimes a root will become animated and the root will try and strangle the person, or there are other obstacles that happen. The leaves of the tree will sting the person. So as the ancestor, you have to sort of make the help this person through this obstacle course of going round and round the tree.
Wow, that's so amazing and so freeing too. And it just brings back up that art is making space for compassion. So, yeah, can't wait till that comes out too. And okay, how did you find the strength to bare your heart and your inner creations to the world?
Ooh, I think that particularly in my short film, You Go Girl, where I feel the most naked, because I'm talking about my relationship with my mom. I'm also talking about my relationship with my body, my weight in particular, and my relationship with the great outdoors, particularly Oregon, which has a history of being a white settler state. That was built to be a white utopia when slavery was abolished down south. A lot of people went to Oregon to form like a perfect white state. So to be Black and to be in nature in Oregon was a really radical act. So in terms of responding to the idea of vulnerability, I think I've been mostly inspired by the vulnerability of other artists that I've gotten to see. And when I think of like the most vulnerable piece of work, I think of artists like Marina Abramović, who's a performance artist who has literally put her body on the line. And, another artist, Michael R. Jackson, who's also affiliated with the Hermitage, who wrote this incredible musical, Strange Loop, which was about his queerness and his relationship with his self and his family and self-loathing. And so in seeing how affected I have been by having other artists reveal themselves, reveal their most vulnerable state to me as an audience, I've been inspired to do the same. And that's probably where it comes from.
That's so beautiful. It's like with their art and with their willingness to be vulnerable and bare their hearts, you probably felt that in your heart. And so your work is a response to that. So that's very cool. Thank
Deeply.
you for the word. I love
Thank
that.
you.
Okay, how do you encourage yourself to expand, for instance, making the leap to VR?
Yeah. I think that Octavia Butler's words always come to me when I'm in a moment of what is called change. And she basically says that, the only something to the effect that like God is change, right? And that change is actually a sacred thing. And so every time I certainly feel, and maybe because I care, I don't know, because it hasn't gotten easier to make or to be vulnerable or to, I thought that like once you do it once, the next time you do it, it's easier. In fact, it gets even harder to bare one's soul, and to like, you just get, I guess the taller you get, the hard, the harder it is if you fall. So I keep those words near me to help me remind myself that going through change and pushing oneself is actually a sacred thing, and that it reminds us that we're alive. I'm also a big believer in like, in that sometimes being I think that's it. Sorry, I got distracted by emails.
No, that was good. So another good quote from Sharifa, going through change is a sacred thing. Yeah, I'm gonna keep
Wow.
that
Okay, we're gonna publish something.
one. Oh, for sure. All right. And then what are some big dreams that you have for this year? What should we
Wow.
be on the lookout for?
Wow, that's really awesome. You know, I have periods in life where I'm doing a lot of output, and then there are periods in life where I'm doing a lot of download and input. And this is a year, I think, that is going to be a lot about input, like downloading, researching, developing, doing, you know, a lot of personal work. So my hope is really, because sometimes I think that we get so accustomed to generating outcomes and like putting out, you know, like new work, new plays, new things, da da da. This year I'm just trying to work on myself. Like I am trying to get healthier. I've gotten into a fitness regimen, which has been really great for my spirit. I would love to get home back to Kenya and South Africa to just touch the soil, be with family. And so while there's a lot of work that's being developed, I'm very excited to also work on myself a little bit.
That is so beautiful. Yeah, no, I love that you actually said that. And I think that oftentimes as just people out in this world in general, you constantly feel the pressure of having to do, and create, and not make room and space for those lulls and the waves. And just for those moments of pause. I'm actually learning that right now too, how to like give myself a little bit more space and time, especially when I'm meeting so many amazing people. I'm having to like take a step back at the same time too and say, hey, self, you're amazing too. And I actually want to spend time with you. I want to do the things that you like to do. And I just want to just breathe. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that you said that, Sharifa. And yeah, I think that's definitely something to consider as we make our plans for the year. Are we ready to, is this a year of output or is this a year of input? So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm
Thank you.
pouring in. It's yeah. And sometimes you can have like a month of output and you know, 3 months of input or whatever it is. But you know, getting attuned to the idea that things move in seasons. And I can already see that next year is going to be a huge year of output. So I'm like steadying myself now so that I can be ready for those things. You have to be able to, you know, opportunities come, but you have to also be ready to meet the moment, right? You have to be ready to, you know, if you think of it as a train that's maybe passing by and you have to run to jump on that train. If you haven't done the necessary sort of preparation, you know, to get the, you know, the hook and to get your running together, when the train comes, you might miss it.
Yeah. Okay, this is my last question, I promise, okay? So earlier you talked about like you're very engaged with your audience and I love just how you bring everybody in. But when you were talking about how you're also engaged with your team in the creation process, it made me realize that you were constantly listening and you're constantly aware of the environment around you. It's like the universe is speaking to you and your ears are just open, just receiving. And so if I may, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but it just seems like because you are always listening and aware, you are naturally tapped into your audience. And so when they respond to you, you can respond to them and be present in the moment. Is that correct?
Wow. How did you
Was that okay?
how
Yay.
did
Okay.
you yeah how did you Yeah, I think, you know, being able to, I think if I, if I, as we get, you know, as you get to know yourself a little bit and you start to understand yourself, you start to become a more awakened to your own magic and what the things that you can really do. And that, you know, and of course you get to stretch yourself and add on more skills. But in becoming aware of my magic, I think my magic is in with people. It is about being aware of the energy in a space, and how to use that that awareness to gather, to bring us together. I think gathering is a core part of what makes me happy. Just this past Monday, I hosted a gala for 330 people. And the art of gathering is really what I'm most excited to tap into. Whether it's of 3 people or 300 people, bringing people together, creating the conditions to bring us closer.
That is so amazing. I'm so inspired just to get the chance to sit down and talk with you. So thank you so much, Sharifa. And thank you for sharing your magic with me and with our audience. Like, it's just everything. So I know you're interested in Sharifa's work. Okay. So go ahead and hit the link down in the description box below and stay tuned on Sharifa's journey. And also make sure you follow her on her social links. I will try and link those down below too. Thank you so much for meeting with us, Sharifa. And
oh, thank you. Thank you for the incredibly well-researched questions. Thank you for the warm spirit, and thank you for this platform, this opportunity.
yeah, no problem. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.